Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the Ray Esports Racing Winter Tour, live on Apex Racing TV. What a night of racing we have for you tonight. As you can see, we begin tonight in some very exciting racing cars at Laguna Seca, and then we will move on to some different cars a little bit later in the evening. But joining me tonight, my name is Jim Hudson, I should say. Joining me tonight is Tyler Newitt. Thank you so much for being here with us, Tyler. And in production, of course, Dennis Branch, the man. He's a legend. He's a beast. Tyler, how are you feeling?
Pretty good. Looking forward to the races tonight, Jim. I think we're going to get a good show. We certainly did the last time we saw the Skippies in this series at Summit Point. This time they're mixing it up with the USF 2000 cars, so whereas we saw the Skippies going for the overall win their first time out, they're going to be going just for class honors this time. But I think we're going to see a pretty good battle here amongst the Skippy drivers. They're pretty close here in qualifying, except Zach Rivard has just gone and put a decent gap on the field. But we should see some good racing here in our first race, and then we've got another great race coming up for you a little bit later with some cars with fenders over their wheels.
That is correct. TCR, MX5, and SRF, unless I'm very much mistaken, which is certainly possible.
Yeah, it should be a good mix there. All cars that we've seen earlier in this series, but with kind of different groupings. We saw the USF 2000s mixed with the old Pro Mazda cars at Lime Rock, and we saw the Skippies, as I mentioned, at Summit Point mixed with the Spec Racer Ford. So we'll see the Spec Racer Fords a little bit later on, but it'll be dicing with the TCR and the MX5, which we both saw at Lime Rock as well.
Quite so. Well, friends, you join us, and we are just ticking over into our 11th minute of a 15-minute qualifying. As you look at the upper left-hand corner of your screen there, you can cast your eye across the timing tower, and you will see Mr. Krabs' name at the top of said timing tower. He's been able to turn in a 122.1, none too shabby, in his number 31 machine. He is, of course, in the F2000 car. The F2000's coming in just about 5 seconds or so faster than the Skippies. Speaking of which, we've just seen Rivard turn in the fastest lap of the race in the Skip Barber car at a 1:35.4. So, wow, that's even that's quite a bit more even than just 5 seconds. So a big difference between these two cars, but they both have that open wheel aerodynamic sort of format to them. Tyler, what makes them so much different?
Well, the USF 2000 car certainly has a little bit more in the way of downforce, and additionally a little bit more in the way of power, and a little bit less in the way of weight. I don't think there's any one aspect in it in which it is significantly greater or less than the Skip Barber. It's just a combination of everything that comes together to make the USF 2000 car just a little bit more sporty around these tracks than the Skip Barbers. Obviously, the Skippy's kind of the first car that a lot of race drivers will get into, whereas the USF 2000 cars are more of a competitive series, even if it is kind of the lowest rung on the road to Indy development ladder.
Yes. Well, you're neglecting to point out, but I will, which is that the Skip Barber car runs tires which are made out of cast iron. Not normally a material that you would choose for a racing car tire, but I'm joking, of course, but it does feel that way sometimes. They are all-season tires, like the kind that you would find on a regular road car. So tires do feel pretty hard sometimes, but it's a spec series, so everybody's got the same, the same car feeling. And that's what makes the racing so good.
I think you can absolutely see that at play already here, Jim. We've been watching practice, and now into qualifying, these Skip Barber cars are slipping and sliding around quite a bit on the always slippery Laguna Seca track surface, but in particular, these Skip Barbers seem to be having a rough go of it. It's going to be very interesting in the race. Obviously, the times we're seeing in the Skip Barber class are pretty right there together, but with the number of mistakes we've seen, I mean, our current top three in Skip Barber, Rivard, Tranter, Arabian, I've seen every single one of them sideways or spun around at some point in this session. So I think we're going to see quite a bit of action in the Skip Barber pack. I think the USF 2000s just by virtue of being, you know, a little bit more stuck to the ground than the Skippies are having a bit easier go of it. But of course, they've got to get by the Skippies, as we see Stevie Ray coming up on a couple of Skippies having sideways moments, one of whom is spun off. That's something that these USF 2000 cars are going to have to deal with as they work their way through the field. Is they're not just battling themselves, but they're certainly going to come up on these Skippies at least once or twice before this race is over with, even in just a 20-minute race.
Yeah, no question. Amazing, isn't it? How, okay, look, it's beautiful. Everybody loves Laguna Seca. I'm a big fan of it, of course, but it's amazing how challenging this circuit is, given the, you know, relatively wide runoff, at least, you know, compared to some of the English circuits, you know, Brands Hatch and such and so, or Belle Isle, you know, a circuit like that. Here's Rivard's just turned in a faster lap indeed.
Yeah, right you are, Jim. And it's a good point that it does seem like a track with a lot of runoff, but the problem with Laguna Seca compared to some other tracks is a lot of tracks, if you use up all of that runoff, what's past that is, you know, a patch of grass or a patch of pavement, and you can normally keep the car under you if you drop a wheel onto that grass. But at Laguna Seca, it's mostly dirt. Which will kind of yank the car around and unsettle you. So if you go just a little bit beyond the curve, what we've just seen the drivers come through turn 6 is a big problem area for that. You'll see the drivers using absolutely all of that curb, and if they go just a little bit beyond it, it's oftentimes game over, just because of the nature of what lies beyond the curbing here at Laguna Seca. It'll just grab your car and spin you all the way around.
Yep, absolutely will, and I have no doubt that we will have occasion to mention this conversation again over the course of the evening. Now, as we wait for our final results in qualifying, as the session is just winding down, well, let's see. Guess we haven't quite finished that, have we?
No, yeah, I think drivers still on their flying laps can complete them, and just seeing 4 or 5 drivers still finishing up their laps, and most of them are coming across the line now.
I'm just looking at the clock, and it's stuck at 14:59. At least for me, it is.
Yeah, I see that as well.
Have I entered a temporal rift of some kind?
All these drivers heading back to the pit lane, they should just keep setting laps.
Well, as I say, yeah, sorry. As I say, as we wait for the official results, which will be coming along presently, let me tell you about Virtual Racing School. You can improve your on-track performance. There are 50-plus data packs here to help you out, road and oval racing. You got setups, track guides, data analysis software, one-on-one coaching, everything you could want to improve your lap time and improve your performance in the race. 2 things which I, as a driver, very much need, Tyler.
Yeah, you and me both, Jim. I think I've certainly made use of VRS over the years, and I find I continue to rely on it more and more as I get incrementally quicker.
Well, here are your results of qualifying, and thus your grid for race number 1. In P1, Miles Crabb, well done to you, sir. And he has Stevie Ray, race organizer for company, on the front row. They're followed by Brandon Abbott, Ross Lundberg, Zachary Rivard, the first of the Skippies, Jack Tranter, Justin Hill, Foreign's Arabian, and then followed by David Gaspers, Andrew Abbott, Antonio Race, and Reese Everard in P12. They are followed by, in P13, Yang-Shi Lin, Ethan Oring, Jeremy Mason, and Aiden Barty there, followed by Richard Dibdahl, Mark Gehan, and Samuel Tully. Interesting to me to see some of the F2000s mixed in with the Skippies there. And it looks like we're going to have a sizable formation lap here.
Yeah, as Laguna Seca is one of the older tracks on iRacing, they run the full lap. It comes up every time we come here. I feel like the full pace lap. Fortunately, Laguna Seca is not a terribly long track, so it won't take all that long. It does look like we had a number of drivers who weren't able to make it to the grid, and we did have one USF 2000 driver who didn't set a qualifying time who did grid up. So he's going to have to work his way through the Skippy field. That's Ethan Oring. He's going to have a tough time of it. I think they like to split the classes at the start and leave a gap. We can see it forming there already between the USF 2000 cars and the Skippy. So it's going to be a tough a tough go for Oring to get to the front of the field, but he does certainly have the car to do it.
Yeah, no question about it. I think his, if he can stay out of trouble and make his passes judiciously, he shouldn't have any issue. Unfortunate that Mason, Barty, Dibdall, Gehan, and Tully did not make it to the grid. Sad. Sad for that. Everybody race.
I did see somebody on the YouTube chat saying their game wasn't loading them in, so perhaps that's one of those drivers that we're seeing not on track as it is at the moment. Certainly unfortunate. Still a decently sized grid, particularly in Skippy, should provide some good racing, and hopefully we see good racing in the USF 2000 category as well. The pace car making its way through the corkscrew, with the Skippies lagging just a little bit behind Zach Rivard, who has paced every session so far here this evening in the Skippy class. Will be looking to cap it off with a race victory, which is really the only one that matters when you think about it.
Yeah, interesting to me as we were just looking at the Skippy cars there. I think, well, the F2000s are rounding the final corner and headed toward the start-finish line. The lights are on, and we should be racing here shortly. Yes, indeed we are, as Crab leads that field of 4 across the start line, and Rivard and Tranter leading the field of the Skippies across the start-finish line around turn 1 and setting up for the Andretti hairpin. Here the Formula 2000s are navigating turn 2 and turn 3 now, the Andretti hairpin and the following turn. Crab seems like he's got a pretty good little gap there. That looked to me like Tranter. Somebody just gave a little tap to Rivard.
That was Oring, I believe, the USF 2000 car, who's trying to work his way through this field. He had almost everybody passed by the time he got to turn 1, but hadn't gotten by Zach Rivard, and I think had a little loose moment and made a little contact. As we see Tranter off the track, he recovers in front of Justin Hill. Fortunate, I think, that Hill might have had to let off there to give him the space to recover in that car. As we see, Zach Rivard is off the track. I told you we were going to see some slipping and sliding in these Skippies, and they are delivering not even half a lap into this race.
Yeah, you don't often see cars going 3 wide on the Rahal straight up toward the corkscrew, but, well, we're 2 wide at least now, setting up for the corkscrew. But, hey, it is early in the race. Plenty of time to get your elbows out and get into the other cars. It looked like a little bit of contact there at the top of the corkscrew.
I saw Tranter off. I see Oring is spun again, so he's going to have to work his way back through the Skippy field for a second time. I'm sure the Skippy drivers aren't all that pleased about that. As we see the pass for 4th place, that's Ferenz Arabian on David Gespers, but it's not done yet. Gespers is going to have a look back into turn 11 and have the inside line, so we should get the run out here.
Yeah, it does look like he has been able to make that stick, but I'm sure that battle is far from over. Plenty of racing left to go. Rivard setting the fastest lap of the race so far, which of course it would be, although we're now on lap 2. Here we go.
I saw smoke into the Andretti hairpin.
Oh, contact there.
Oh, it's Justin Hill who spun it, I believe, and he's dropping positions. I saw one of the other cars off there. I think that was Abbott, as you just mentioned. He's recovered onto the track, but these Skippy drivers having no shortage of issues dealing with this track. I don't know what sort of track temp we're looking at, but I got to imagine it's pretty high the way these cars are sliding around out there. Here we have a view of what happened to Justin Hill. Just locked up the left front and spun it around, trying to keep it on the track. He actually held on to it for the most part before losing it for a second time. Took out the pit exit cone, but he should be all right. I don't think that'll be any sort of penalty. As we see, I think that's Abbott off again in the background. Somebody took a massive amount of curb. I don't think that's going to end well at all. Let's see who it was. It looked like it was, you're right. That's Everard in the Braun GP livery, I think. Went for a massive ride over that curb. You have to angle it in early because you need the regular curbing to turn the car. But if you take too much liberty with it, you hit the sausage curb and it'll launch you just like it did to Reese Everard, who was reset to the pit lane. He must have had some amount of damage.
Yeah, interesting that Everard managed to take over the lead of the Skip Barber race by getting towed back to the pits.
Yeah, it often looks that way on the timing for sure. is quickly tumbling backwards for Reese Everard, and he will slot into the back of the Skippy field. He's actually the first driver who's had to tow back. Everyone else who's had their issues has been able to keep it going and not accrue any damage, as this
Something
is
just
Oring.
Sorry to interrupt. Something just happened to Crab. I think he must have had an off. He was leading the race and is now down in P3. And I
Yeah,
believe
you're
I saw his
absolutely
number.
right. Oh my goodness. Both Rivard and Tranter going wide there. So what happened to Crab? Does he take too much curb similar to Everard, or does he just run wide? Neither.
That was an ambitious turn in.
Yeah. It looked as though he knew he had kind of missed the apex, so gave it kind of as much steering angle as he could to just make sure he didn't run wide, because that's a big danger area if you drop a wheel there, and ended up spinning it. It's probably the trickiest corner on this track, I would say, because you need to carry a ton of momentum through there, but it's such a narrow entry and exit that you have to hit the apex just right, as we see the Skip Barber drivers continuing to treat this as a rallycross layout of Laguna Seca. They're trying to pick up as much dirt as they can, almost like they expected to cool down their tires or something.
Yeah, you are right about that section of the track. It is very challenging because if you don't carry that momentum, you'll notice that the cars who are able to do it either close on you or scamper away into the distance. And it just makes you want to carry more momentum on the next lap, whether you know how to or not.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit of a ambitious game of chicken you can get to, even just playing it with yourself through there. You're like, I know I can go quicker. I just got to get the turn in right, and then I got to get the braking right, and I got to get the exit right. But I can do it.
All it takes is being a better driver than I am.
Exactly. Stevie Ray has inherited the lead of this race and opened up a pretty substantial gap over Brandon Abbott and Miles Crab, actually. He's putting in some quick lap times right now.
I thought I saw just a hint of a puff of smoke from the front end of his car, but it doesn't seem to have affected him at all. Looking very smooth and controlled.
Yeah, I've driven the USF 2000 cars a bit, and it's definitely possible to lock up a tire. They're pretty susceptible to it if you don't have your kind of brakes calibrated to, avoid it. So definitely possible that Ray locked it up. It doesn't really set you back too much, as he took it a little bit easy through that corner. Exactly as we were mentioning, he still carried a ton of speed, but had a little bit of room to give on exit. So the really, really quick guys will sail through there and use up the entirety of the exit curving as well as the apex curving. As I think Abbott has had an incident, he's reset to the pits. See him dropping down the order.
Yeah, he had something happen there. Ray's got himself coming on for a 6-second gap over Abbott, so he does have the time to carefully navigate those turns if he chooses to.
He does. His big worry is going to be Miles Crab comeback. Crab running a little bit more than half a second a lap quicker than actually this last time through. Crab was more than a second quicker than Stevie Ray. He just set the fastest lap of the race. So I don't think Brandon Abbott is going to be the concern for Stevie Ray. It's going to be Miles Crab, who is on a bit of a recovery drive in that beautiful old Jordan F1 liveried car.
Yeah, Crab has certainly got the pace. He's set the fastest lap of the race at a 1:22.3, much better than Stevie Ray's best at a 1:23.8. He might have time to catch up.
Yeah, it's going to be close. If he can keep on that pace, I would say he will definitely be there before the end of the race. But if it drops to more, round about a half a second or so, as we see, he's clawed a couple seconds back each of the last few laps. So if he keeps that up, he's going to be in great shape. He'll be right on Stevie Ray in really just a few laps. But if he gets stuck here behind Brandon Abbott, which it looks like he might just, he's going to have a lot of trouble.
Yeah, Abbott appears to be driving well, and it looks like they're about to catch a back marker of some kind as they navigate the final turn and go onto the start-finish straight.
That would be UNC Lynn, who's at the back of the Skip Barber class on track.
This is probably going to be his best passing opportunity, I would think, going into turn 2. The Andretti hairpin. Indeed, he takes a look down the inside and makes it look easy so far. Let's see if he can make it stick around the turn. He does indeed. Now, Crab is loose. The crab is loose to chase down Stevie Ray and see if he can make something happen for the lead of this race. With 11 minutes to go, I would say we've got a show on our hands.
For sure, yeah, he's, it's the old adage in racing, catching is one thing and passing is another. For sure, Stevie's not going to make it as easy on him as perhaps Brandon Abbott did, but Stevie's having to deal with traffic of his own right now, working his way through the Skip Barber field. We mentioned kind of early on that this was going to be something that the USF 2000 leaders were going to have to deal with. And looking at the time, it's not going to be the only time. He's likely going to catch this group a second time towards the end of this race, which could certainly shape how this finish ends up. But at the moment, Stevie Ray clinging on to about a 6.5 second lead over Miles Crab, who is charging hard.
Well, while we wait for him to maybe close that gap up a little bit, it looks like we got a pretty good battle going on in the Skip Barbers for P3 between Gaspers and Arabian, two drivers who have met each other before on the field of battle, as we see Crab passing them. Off he goes.
And he compromised Gasper's line there. He had to take a bit of a tight entry, and that's allowed Arabian to close the gap up just a little bit. It's hovering just over a half a second. Arabian closed some of that down with the toe on the straight, but they're having to deal with these USF 2000 cars going by, and at the moment, it looks like they're compromising Gaspers a little bit more than they are Arabian. So perhaps Arabian just getting a little bit lucky and using that lap traffic to his advantage, although Gaspers lucked out there as that was Brandon Abbott, didn't make a dive into turn number 4 and let Gaspers have that that gap, and it's pretty much stabilized the gap between these two for that final podium position in the Skip Barber class.
Well, it swings both ways, doesn't it? That lucky podium or pendulum. Sometimes it's with you, sometimes not so much. We just saw that play out for Gaspers and for Arabian, but they remain together as they navigate the corkscrew and head down into turn 10.
Yeah, down through Rainy Curve, and Gaspers has opened it up just a little bit, although Arabian got a good run out and closed it back. They're really just kind of sitting around half a tenth, 6/10 of a second, or half a second, 6/10 of a second, I should say. Half a tenth would be awfully close, but Arabian should get a pretty decent tow here from Gaspers. It won't be enough, I can't imagine, to overtake him into turn number 1, but you see the on the relative there, the gap closing in, so he closed probably about a 1/10.5 there just from the toe on the straight, which brings him right into the wake of David Gaspers, and I don't think we're going to see a move. I think his move is to wait until turn number 1, as I just noticed that Crab has had another incident. He is now he's behind Abbott and some 11 seconds behind Stevie Ray, so or 16 seconds behind Stevie Ray, excuse me. So I don't think Crab's recovery drive is going as planned. That's exactly what we said at the beginning. It's so unforgiving beyond those curbs, and he just barely dropped that left rear tire into the dirt. But with these cars, set up to be on edge, there's no room for error, unless you're a Skippy driver, of course, because they seem to be using the dirt to their advantage. But for the USF 2000 cars, there's no room for error. So Crab going to have a long road ahead of him, and he's probably going to need a mistake from Stevie Ray if he's going to make that gap back up. So we jump forward, or back rather, to this battle between the two Skippies for third place, as we see fifth place Justin Hill having another slide behind him. Hill started a lot higher up. He's had a couple of incidents out there today, I think, that Mountain Dew livery car, as Arabian is right on Gaspers, getting a mega tow up down the front stretch and into the Andretti hairpin. He's going to look around the outside. That's what Gaspers is giving him. We'll see if he tries to cut back under or make it stick around the outside. He's backed off just a little bit, but Gaspers keeps it tight. There's no room for the over-under there by Arabian. Both of them digging into the dirt on exit. But Arabian is going to have to make a move happen in the near future, and he looks like he's got it. Oh, he was alongside for just a minute there heading into turn number 4, but had to back out of it. So this battle continues on as Arabian, I think he had all 4 wheels in the dirt at one point there. Not really a good passing opportunity until they get kind of back around to turn 11, unless he can make something happen into the corkscrew, which would certainly be dramatic. But he'll just have to, oh, yeah, you can't. You cannot go too wide through turn number 6, you just can't. So they head on to the Rahal straight, and I think Arabian is going to just have to sit back and wait for another opportunity towards the front end of the track.
You know, I gotta say, we're riding on the roll bar of Arabian's car here. I gotta say, I'm impressed by the sort of the smoothness that he appears to be deploying on track here. It makes me think that he is doing exactly as you said, just kind of biding his time. I'm sure that he wishes he was a little closer to Gaspers here, going through turn 11 and starting this run down the start-finish straight in hopes of being able to make a move. But he looks like he'll be within towing range, if not within striking distance.
Yeah, he seemed to lose a little bit to Gaspers there, as I've just seen the battle for the lead in Skippies. Looks like it's getting awfully close. I don't know if... Ooh, that was Gaspers locking up, but he kept it under him. Rivard's had Tranter close right up in behind him. These two were not this close not too long ago. Yeah, so something must have happened to Zach Rivard. He lost over 2.5 seconds that last time around. And all of a sudden, Jack Tranter is right there looming in his mirrors.
Before I forget, I just want to send a shout out to Crab who spun in the middle of the track, reversed off the racing line, cost himself more time, but allowed the rest of the race. No worries, just allowed the rest of the race to continue. So a little bit of racing etiquette on Crab's part there. We appreciate that.
Some nearly mirror-like battles going on there. We saw both Tranter and Arabian hanging it out on the exit of turn 6, getting into the dirt. Arabian is right on the back of David Gaspers for 3rd place here. He got a pretty good run into the corkscrew and had a look to the outside, but that's a very difficult move to make stick for sure. So he'll have a look here into 11, or just sit back and wait for the tow into turn number 1 once again.
Yeah, he's a little bit closer this time than last, maybe only, I don't know, a foot or two, but well, I don't know, it looks like more than that.
Yeah, it seems about a car length and a half behind Gaspers, and pretty much stays that way. Gets to probably within half the car length under the braking, but looked like he outbraked himself just a little bit there. Had a bit of a wiggle and dropped back just a touch to Gaspers.
Yeah, it looked like he might have felt the rear going and had to open up the wheel a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. It shows good car control, though, from Ferenz Arabian to be able to sense that car was stepping out. We saw a couple of drivers lose it into turn number 1 just from the back end. So good on Arabian to catch that car as we jump forward back to the lead battle. Tranter keeps it within the confines of the racetrack this time. And he's going to need to, because Rivard has just stretched it out a little over a half second now, about 7/8 tenths ahead of Tranter as they work their way down through the corkscrew and into Rainy Curve. Tranter doesn't quite seem to have the pace that Rivard has, barring any further mistakes from Zach, but you know, we've seen everybody make them today, so it's certainly not out of the question. Here, though, it definitely seems like Arabian has just a little bit better pace than Gaspers, but it's so hard to work your way by somebody here. You really need to get the run right and set up the pass into turn number 1. That's pretty much the only good passing zone. Otherwise, you're going to have to make a bit of a run.
Well, Rivard setting the fastest lap of the race in the Skip Barber cars at 1:35.1. As we see Gaspers leading Arabian into the Andretti hairpin. Interesting way of chucking the car into the turn there on Arabian's part, and closes himself right up to the gearbox of Gaspers. Now, if he can stay this close for the rest of the circuit, as you said, pulling alongside. You don't see a pass here very often, but going too wide.
No,
Gaspers dipped a couple of wheels.
he took advantage of a mistake from Gaspers. Gaspers caught a bit of the sausage curb in turn number 3, but wow, Gaspers sticks it right back alongside into turn number 5, and he's going to have the inside line here, but as we mentioned, game of chicken, one of these drivers is going to have to back out, and oh, it was Gaspers by just a little bit. Both of them had to get out of the gas for sure in order for them to make that corner on the non-optimal line, but Gaspers settles in behind. And I think if he's going to have a chance at third place, he's going to have to get back by quick, because I think Arabian just has that little bit of pace in hand.
Yeah, you know, it is the worst thing to be leading somebody for lap after lap and kind of telling yourself, I got this guy, and then having him come around you. And then, you know, there's that tendency to drive a little bit mad. And I think that's what we're seeing from Gaspers here now.
Yeah, but what I will say, what Gaspers has going for him is he's generally been better through turns kind of 9, 10, 11 than Arabian. And he was once again there. And that's where you really need to be better on this track, because it sets you up into turn number 1 as we see him making a move to the outside. That's going to be difficult to make stick. He gets sideways. They come together.
Oh
no.
No.
Oh, dear.
Both cars. Oh, they come together exactly as you said. And in these open wheel cars, just that little touch, and then the wheels touch, and Arabian's car is thrown. Gaspers into the side of Arabian's car. Nose cones flying. Gaspers apparently still got a relatively drivable car. We see him rejoin the track there, but unfortunate. I'm sure those drivers are both annoyed with one another and themselves. Hard to really pin that on anybody other than just a racing incident in the Andretti hairpin. Tyler?
It's tough from that angle. It did seem as though Gaspers kind of pinched the corner off to the point where there was no possible way that Arabian was going to make that corner without hitting him. I don't know if there was a car width there, but the way he kind of chopped off the apex, you have to know that the car on the inside is going to be on a trajectory to make contact. But at the same time, Gaspers was locking up his inside left front, and we've seen those cars spinning around, so it's certainly possible he was not in total control of that car at the point of contact. It's really tough to say without another angle, but if I had to apportion blame, I would say that Gaspers was probably the one at fault there, but it is really difficult to call it any more than a racing incident.
Well, it's unfortunate, but we see cars now taking the checkered flag. Crab managing to better his position on track to within just about 2.5 seconds of Ray. I bet Crab wishes he had not had the incidents on track that he did. They're followed in P3 in the F2000 cars by Abbott. Well done to Abbott for bringing that back together. 6 seconds of drift of Crab.
Yeah, these Skip Barber leaders are actually going to be the last cars to cross the line. They were just ahead of the overall leader when he took the checkered flag. So Tranter doesn't really seem like he's going to have a chance unless Rivard makes a mistake here in the last few corners. But they are still right together. Tranter's done well to hold on to Rivard throughout this race since Rivard made his error that cost him his big gap out front. But at the moment, it looks as though Zach Rivard has this lead pretty comfortably in hand as he rounds turn number 10. A little bit sideways, but that's just kind of how these skippies roll. He gets on the brakes into turn number 11. Rounds the corner.
A wiggle there.
Yeah, gets back on throttle. Whoa! What's he doing?
He's going to lose it.
Tranter's backed off there, so.
Oh.
I get the feeling that these two might know each other, given the way Tranter backed off and kind of let him recover there.
Tranter just slung all his wheels. Well, while we wait for the official results, let me tell you about Apex Racing Academy. Never mind. Here are our official results. Stevie Ray at the top of the timing tower. He's got to be pleased with himself. Well done. Great drive out there. Followed by Miles Crabb. And P3, Brandon Abbott in the Formula 2000. And Ethan O-Ring, followed by Russ Lundberg. And then your Skippy leader, your winner, Zachary Rivard. In second place, Jack Tranter. And in P3, Justin Hill, followed by Antonio Race. Foreign's Arabian. Some great battles on track out there. Yang Shi Lin, David Gaspers finishing the race probably in the pits, if I'm not mistaken. Andrew Abbott, Reese Everard, Jeremy Mason. It's hard to read, but I think that's Aiden Barty, followed by Richard Dibdall, Mark Geehan. So great racing out there. What a show. Now, let me tell you about Apex Racing Academy. Data packs, setups, track guides, integrated with VRS, weekly group coaching sessions, everything you could possibly want. Again, this is the kind of thing that I very much need to get my on-track driving together. I want to be as fast as Tyler someday.
Well, you flatter me, Jim. I think we have our class winners ready to jump in for an interview.
There's Steve Ray.
Hey, guys.
Hey, congratulations on your win out there. You must feel awfully accomplished. It's not only is it your series, but you've managed to take the win.
Getting the win in it is an extra bonus. I don't know if I could have got that if he wouldn't have spun off there. But Miles had me covered till he spun.
I'm not so sure about that. That was our read on it when it happened, but you had kind of 6+ seconds, and you didn't appear to be closing too quickly. We were kind of gaming it out, and we thought he might catch you, but no, I think you won this one fair and square.
Yeah, after he spun the first time and went back, then it was kind of dial it down a little bit so I didn't wreck, and then he spun the second time, and that was it. Then just get it home. So
yeah. Any trouble managing traffic out there?
Not at all. The guys are really good. It's an honor to be on track with a lot of these guys. I mean, you've got some runoff gold medal winners and medal winners and regular guys. So it's a privilege to run with these guys.
Well, we sure had a ball watching it. Thank you so much for driving, for entering, for putting on such a great show, and for setting all this up entirely. Anybody you want to send a shout out to?
Just all the drivers that come out week after week and help us try this series out. And we'll get another series going in January sometime, but just it's nothing without the guys on the track. So appreciate them and appreciate you guys as well.
Well, you bet. It's our pleasure. Thanks so much, Stevie Ray. Great race out there. That was your overall winner, Stevie Ray.
Thanks.
I think we've got another interview, Tyler.
Yep. Zach Rivard, our Skip Barber winner. How's it going, Zach?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing great up here. We had a blast watching you. It looked at one point as though it was kind of going to be easy breezy, or as easy breezy as it could be with the way those skippies were sliding all over the place for you. But at some point you made a mistake and you had a race on your hands.
Yeah. I was in a Discord call with Jack and Justin, so we thought we'd race a little bit. So it was fun there at the end. I thought I had pace in hand to kind of keep a gap on him, but he was staying right there, so it was a little closer than I kind of wanted it to be. But still, it was fun.
We did wonder, based on we'll say the way in which you crossed the finish line, if you were in communication with Jack, because he was very kind to let you do your thing down the front stretch.
Well, yeah, I wasn't sure. He was coming on and telling me to slow down to make it look good, and I was kind of iffy on it because I was like, is he just messing with me and he wants to take the win, or? But it all worked out. I kept the OnlyFans car behind me.
Yeah, it certainly seemed like you had some pace in hand over the field. As you mentioned, you seemed to think that you kind of had everybody covered. You were quick in practice. You were quick in qualifying. Is the Skippy a car you're pretty familiar with on iRacing, or is it just the track you get on with, or a combination of the two?
I guess a combination of the two. I'd say the Skippy is probably my best car. I run Formula Ford in real life, so they're pretty similar. So I can kind of resort back to experience on iRacing and in real life. So it just works out well for me.
I would say that makes perfect sense. Zach, do you have anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go here?
Yeah, definitely. My dad, sister, cousin Miles, my friend Patrick, and my mom and her friend Sylvia, who are watching again. Oh, and also my grandma and grandpa, who are also watching.
Well, perfect. We love to have so many people watching along here on Apex Racing TV. That was your Skip Barber class winner, Zach Rivard. Thank you, Zach.
Fantastic. Now, I believe we are due to take a short break and then change our session to the next race. We've got even more racing to come.
Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfala.
And Ray Alfala is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to Ray Esports Racing Winter Tour live on Apex Racing TV. I am still Jim Hodgson, and still joining me is Tyler Newen on commentary and Dennis Branch in the production booth. We're back. We're ready for more racing, and as Tyler pointed out in the previous race, this time our wheels are a little bit more covered up.
Yeah, you can't get rid of me yet, Jim. I'm still here. Still ready to see some exciting tin top racing this time. We have the TCR cars, which you see on your screen at the moment. We have the Spec Racer Fords, which I suppose don't technically have a tin top, but they do have fenders over their tires. And we have, at the moment, a lone Mazda MX-5. Props to Bryce Evans for taking the Miata out for a stroll here. But at the moment, he is the only one on track that we are showing or in the session. So, but we do have a decent amount of TCR and Spec Racer Fords for you today. So should be a pretty decent mix.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. We should have, well, exactly as you say, a decent mix. It'll certainly be interesting to watch these TCR cars. Not often do you look at a TCR car in track and think to yourself, God, that thing looks enormous. But next to these Spec Racer Fords, they do look pretty big.
That's for sure. They are dwarfing these Spec Racer Fords, and I'm sure if we saw one of them next to the Miata, it would be rather similar. There's your Race 1 winner, Stevie Ray, in his Spec Racer Ford. I like the Warbird livery on that one. He is managing to get some qualifying laps in after taking the time to talk to us, which is good. At the moment, it is Ferenz Arabian who we saw having that battle with David Gaspers, who heads the Spec Racer Ford field ahead of Antonio Reese, who was, I believe, was also in the last race.
He was.
Murphy Nichols, who is not in the last race, is heading up the TCR pack by quite a bit, ahead of Frank Alessi and Andrew Benna.
It's amazing to me that Arabian's car is already showing damage, although as we see his number go red, he's had some something terrible has befallen him at some point on the track.
Yeah, a number of drivers showing off track for a minute there. It's, as we saw in race number 1, it's easily done. I don't know how forgiving the dirt's going to be to the Spec Racer Fords, or for that matter, the TCRs or the MX-5. We'll have to wait and see, but at the moment, looking like a pretty tight field in Spec Racer Ford between Arabian Reese, Hugo Beersley, Ray, all of whom have set lap times. David Gaspers has also set a time, but it's not particularly competitive as of yet. I'm also showing Yangshi Lin, Sean Fose, Ethan Ring in the session, but not having set times yet. There is Yangshi Lin, who I believe won the Spec Racer Ford class at Summit Point, we saw a couple of weeks ago.
Well, he certainly got experience in the car, if not in the track, as do most of these drivers. As I recall, Gaspers was doing pretty well at Spa. But certainly be interesting to see. Qualifying now ticking over your 13th minute, so we'll be winding down. Drivers will be doing their best to better their time. Looks like Arabian is on an outlap, so he'll be trying to better his time. Maybe he thinks that Lin can better his.
And Lin just jumped up to second there. We had seen him on his hot lap just a minute ago. So he cuts pretty much the gap between Arabian and Reese in half there as he slots into second place. There's a spin for, that was it we were watching? Ethan Oring.
Yeah.
Yep, so Ethan, who didn't set a qualifying time in his USF 2000 car and had to start at the back of the field. If he doesn't set a time in his Spec Racer Ford, he'll only have one Miata he'll have to start behind. But David Gaspers is, I'm sure, not who Ferenz Arabian would be wanting to see alongside him, but at the moment, they are sitting 1-2 in Spec Racer Ford and look set to continue their battle from the Skippies over into this race. I shouldn't say Arabian doesn't want to see him. I don't know what the kind of conclusion of the incident between those two drivers was. It could very well have been fairly amicable, but for sure they were battling hard and look set to battle hard in some spec racers for a second go here.
Well, there's not any money in it, so we might as well be friends, right?
Exactly.
There's no reason to get too huffy with one another.
For sure. I think I do a fair bit of league racing, and I find that it's a lot easier to forgive and forget when it's guys that you are racing with week in, week out. You know their tendencies, you know what they're going to be like, and you know if they did it on purpose or not, for sure. So
yeah, you
I think
get those. You do get those. Like, he's done it to me 5 races in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But I think Gaspers and Arabian hopefully have some sort of rapport and hopefully race each other clean here in race number 2. Alessi has not been able to close that gap to Nichols much at all. It's still a 1.5 second gap plus a bit in the TCR field, but it's all right there together in Spec Racer 4, although David Gaspers, just as I say that, extends it out to about 3/10 over Ferenz Arabian there.
Well, here we are just about to finish up qualifying. I believe I'm safe in saying that Bryce Evans is going to lead the field in MX5 because he's the only one.
Well, what's impressive, I think, for Bryce Evans is he's going to start ahead of some Spec Racer Fords and a TCR. I mean, of course, they didn't set representative lap times.
Wow.
Jameson has one more shot at it here. Don't know if he's on a particularly quick lap. I can't see his sector times, but
He is for him. He's gotten a couple of greens for himself. We'll see what he's able to do.
he's got quite a bit of damage on that car. So not really a wonder he had a ways off the pace. Did a 155 there, so not going to move him anywhere up the timing charts. Sean Fose is the last driver out on track, I believe. Although I see Ferenz Arabian is actually showing as still on track as well. But Sean Fose has not set a time yet, so he'll just want to keep all 4 wheels on the track here and put in something to get him on the board.
And I think he is just, to my eye at least, he cut that corner enough to pick up a 1, but I don't know if he did or not.
Oh, and he's dropped out. So
Yep.
That'll conclude qualifying.
Yes, indeed. And here are your results and thus your grid. In P1, it is Murphy Nichols. Pleased to see him at the top of the timing tower. Had a little bit of trouble in the previous race. Followed by Frank Alessi. And then Andrew Benna and Samuel Tully. On row 3, Joe Camilleri and David Gaspers. Gaspers, the first of your Spec Racer Ford cars, followed by Ferenz Arabian, Yangshi Lin, Antonio Race, Stevie Ray, Greg Hubler, and Stephen Beardsley in P12. Those guys are followed by our lone MX5 entrant, Bryce Evans, who was followed by Andre Jameson, Sean Fose, whom we just saw a moment ago, and Ethan O-Ring, as we see the pace car drive away for our full lap formation once again at Laguna Seca. TCR cars weaving back and forth here to try to get some heat into their tires or to try to potentially have an incident on the formation, which is not an unheard of thing.
No, it sure isn't. I remember one endurance race I was doing, LMP2 car. And, it was at Road Atlanta. It wasn't Petit Le Mans, fortunately. It was just I think it was a 2-hour endurance race. And needless to say, someone tried to warm their tires at the top of the S's, and I happened to be there.
Yep, that is my home track in real life. Very familiar with it, although it never gets old.
Yeah, I love to drive Petit Le Mans on the sim. That's definitely up there with some of my favorite tracks, but I was not too happy with it that day, although it certainly wasn't the track's fault.
Yeah, The S's will get you. That's for sure.
I just want to say I appreciate that Bryce Evans is continuing to pace, and it looks like he's going to run the race. It's easy to get a little down when you are the only car in your class, but certainly I think the spirit of the race to keep going and have a good, put in some good laps in his Mazda and hopefully not hold anybody up too badly.
Well, it's Miata drivers for you. Just good people. I actually sold my car, so I can't really claim to be a Miata owner anymore, can I? Well, here we go. We are rid of the pace car and in a giant buzzing crowd of angry metal around the final corner onto the start-finish straight. We are going to be racing here shortly. We are all ready, and here we go across the start-finish line. The TCR cars all battling it out through turn one, setting up for the Andretti hairpin in a huge pack. Nichols leads.
Oh, dear.
Tully. Big incident there. That's Tully and Alessi.
Yeah, that was somebody locking up on the brakes, I think. And just coming together. I think they were 3 wide as there's another... Oh, that's Bryce Evans in the Mazda off at the Andretti hairpin as well. I think Andre Jameson might have been in there. So a number of issues for drivers in turn number 1. There wasn't much of a gap between the TCR cars and the Spec Racer Fords as they went down into turn number 1. So the chaos that started with the TCRs kind of continued on through the Spec Racer class just a little bit. As we see Sean Fose, who didn't set a qualifying time, trying to work his way past some Spec Racer Fords. That's Beardsley. He's, oh dear. And just finished off by Tully there.
Yeah, unfortunate. You hate to see that kind of thing, especially for a car to, to kind of tank slap her onto the track and get T-boned by another car. Unfortunate. These things do happen.
Yeah, Fose kind of a bit out of control there. So difficult for him to have anything sway that accident in any other direction as he was spinning back onto the track. The battle for the lead here in Spec Racer Ford, though, is quite tense between Arabian and Gaspers, who resume their fight. As we see pretty much the exact same move we saw take them both out of the Spec Racer or the Skippy race. Fortunately, this time cooler heads prevail. This time it was Arabian on the outside into turn number 1, and they managed to keep it clean, but he's got a big run into turn number 4 in that silk cut Jaguar. Beautiful livery. He doesn't try to dive up the inside, obviously still early, just on lap number 2 in this 20-minute race. Plenty of time for Arabian to work his way past David Gaspers.
Yeah, no question. Talk about really bringing the previous race back, but that's what this is all about. Gaspers was previously getting a pretty nice tow from the TCR car of Camilleri, but I guess Camilleri's had an incident of some kind as he's dipped down the timing tower quite a bit. Arabian having a little look on Gaspers here. I'm not sure about that for a passing position, but he had a little look anyway. There comes Alessi.
Yeah, Alessi, part of that turn 1 mess on lap 1, trying to work his way back through the... Oh, as that's Gaspers wide.
Yeah.
Arabian had the inside down through Rainey, and Gaspers just ran a little bit wide, but he keeps his foot in and fights back through turn number 10. Doesn't have the preferred line in turn 11, though. He'll try and hang it around the outside. And he does get a good run up down the front stretch, and it actually looks like he's going to have the advantage here over
Unbelievable.
Arabian. Of course, Alessi is trying to tiptoe his way through this field. He goes around the outside, but with these guys weaving and defending, it was looking a bit risky there for Alessi for a second, but now it's Yuanxi Lin having a look around the outside of Arabian for second place. The two fighting for the lead has brought pretty much the rest of the top 5 right there with them.
I cannot believe that Gaspers had that incident just on the coming out of 9, it looked like. Managed to turn it into a pass in 10 and stay ahead through 11 down the start-finish straight. Of course, I think the big winner, as you mentioned, was Yangshi Lin, as he's now been able to close this gap up and make it into quite a race. We got a good little gap, a good little group here of 5. Gaspers, Arabian, Lin, Ray, and Race.
Yeah, all pretty much nose to tail as they head into turn number 6. Gaspers has led every lap so far of this race, but certainly hasn't been easy. As we see Lin ducking out from behind Arabian, just showing his nose, it's not really going to help him there because he needs that toe down the Rahal straight to stick with it, as Gaspers runs wide out of the corkscrew, and this time he's on the inside through Rainey. He just backs off a little bit and lets Arabian have that one.
Yeah, he's got to be thinking, there's no way I'm getting that lucky 2 laps in a row.
For sure, yeah. But, does he have a look into turn 11? He does not. He stays right in line with Arabian. Now, he's going to get a toe down into turn number 1, and Yangshi Lin is going to get a double toe. Although he's jumped just a little bit off the back, perhaps waiting to see how this plays out. If they come together, you don't want to be too close, do you, if you're Yangshi Lin?
Yeah, no question. So big split between track positioning here. Gaspers, you said it. It looked like he was just going to pinch that corner off once more and have a trouble with Arabian, but they managed to make it work. Now Gaspers showing a nose ahead, and I'm sure Arabian will slot in behind for that toe, as does Yangshi Lin. Followed, of course, by Ray and Race. And it's a good old 20 to 12 second gap back to Beardsley. But Evans, in his lone MX-5, climbing the timing tower.
Currently top 10, or briefly top 10 overall, though he's getting passed by the plaid Audi here of Camilleri, who had incidents early on. As you said, he was running with the leaders in TCR, but has since dropped back. But Bryce Evans continuing to circulate, continuing to set pretty reasonable lap times. I mean, he's really not that much slower than the Spec Racer Ford field in his Miata, so definitely not taking it easy as the lone car in his class, just out for some hot laps, I think.
Well, something has happened in the Spec Racer Ford group, as we see Gaspers has dropped back to P3, so he must have had some kind of incident that not only lost him some spots, but let Stevie Ray gain a few. So
yeah, I wonder if he had a run-in with Yangshi Lin, who also dropped behind Stevie Ray. We're, I think, about to get a look. So it was Gaspers ahead into the corkscrew. Does he overshoot it? He does, which will be a slowdown. And then he comes back on track right in front of Yangshi Lin. Nothing either of them could do there, as Gaspers was just, carrying with the momentum. And Yangshi, unfortunately, was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and drops back to 4th place. But what that's done is given Arabian almost a second lead, as we see Gaspers working back to the inside of Stevie Ray for 2nd place. Get the feeling that Ray is just kind of hanging with this group. I don't know that he wants to fight hard for these positions at this point in the race.
Well, he's got his win for the evening, I mean, he can just kind of hang out and let other people really duke it out. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It does look like Arabian is kind of scampering away here. Over a second gap back to Gaspers has Arabian, and Gaspers will be wishing that Stevie Ray will get right into his gearbox and give him a push.
Then having a look as they head up into the corkscrew, but not really a place to make a pass unless you've got a massive run. As Ray dives it down, drops just a tire or two into the dirt on the inside of the right-hander. Lin will have to wait another few corners before he has a look, and he's got Race right on his bumper. Having a look, not rolling over for Lin, who has been quick. But at the moment, Arabian, kind of at the edge of toe distance, has pulled a gap on Gaspers of about 1.3 seconds, and it's actually increasing as I think he got a good run out of turn 11. So sets the fastest lap of the race as well by a 1/10 and a half or so over Gaspers. So Arabian trying to run away with it while he still can. The longer you stay in that toe, the more competitive everybody else is going to be. As we see Ray still working on Yangshi Lin, not able to make a move happen as yet.
Well, all of this has certainly strung this field out. We had a pretty tight group, but now they're looking like there's some daylight in between each one of these cars, as you mentioned. So that makes me think that Arabian is, as you say, trying to get away with it, although that gap has now come down to under a second. Gaspers would have DRS if we had DRS, but we don't, much to his chagrin, I'm sure.
Yeah, Gaspers does seem to probably have the pace of this field along with Ferenz Arabian. I think it was kind of those two battling that really brought this group there with them. I'm not sure any of these three have quite the pace of those top two. I'm sure they're, plenty quick and within a couple of tenths, but I think ultimate lap pace and consistency, it's Gaspers versus Arabian for this lead. Of course, if Gaspers does manage to catch back up to Arabian and those two should come together, you got to believe these three will be right back in it.
Yeah. No question about it. Well, he does appear to be chipping away at Arabian's lead. You mentioned that you think that Gaspers is really strong in that complex, that 9, 10, 11, sort of the last couple of turns in the circuit complex, and that appears to be the case. Some really, really insightful commentary on your part, I got to say.
Well, for sure, that was just the Skip Barbers. I haven't been watching super closely to see where the delta is between those two, although we know on the last lap, as we see the lapped car of Alessi merging in with this group here, which will only serve to break them up a bit more. We know on the last lap that Gaspers gained a lot through this section here. This is where we saw the gap come down to within a second, as it was over close to 1.5 seconds as they exited turn number 1. So interesting to see if they do the same through here, although with the TCR car coming through, it's going to be difficult. Gaspers will be having a look in his mirror.
Yeah, the gap sort of holding somewhat steady. I was just looking at the timing tower and seeing a fair amount of green on Gasper's part, which means that he's doing some of his better, he's bettering his sector times. Getting a little bit of a tow here, possibly, from the number 2 machine of Alessi, although this isn't the best part.
No, it's a bit unfortunate that Alessi went for that move into turn number 6, as it was. I mean, he did have the run, certainly, and he didn't hold up Gaspers too much, but personally, I think it would have been better. Alessi's not really fighting for anything, just let these guys have their battle and get them on the front straight when you'll be able to breeze by him.
Yeah. Well, we're looking here at Lynn, who's probably a little bit annoyed to be running back here in this second group. His fortunes looked like they were going to really turn into something for this race. He's now in P4, and he was previously fighting for P3, but plenty of racing left to go. We just ticked over into minute 12 of a 20-minute race, so we probably have 3, 4, 5 laps to go, something like that. Plenty of time to make some stuff happen. As you've seen, plenty can happen in just one lap.
And you actually may be annoyed that he's, not with the lead battle, but he's had plenty of laps behind Stevie Ray to make a pass. I really think his pace is just, well, of course, as soon as I say that, he makes the move into turn number 5. Will he be able to make it stick? I think he will. I'd imagine Ray will concede this into turn number 6 and hope that Lynn runs a little bit wide. No, Ray tries to hold it around the outside, and that probably cost him more than if he had just tucked in behind and tried to ride or undercut Lynn on the exit of turn number 6. But fair play to Stevie Ray. He's entitled to do that. But I'm not sure that Lynn is all that much quicker than these two he's been battling with. Obviously he was able to get by Stevie Ray there, but he was stuck behind him for a fair bit. Really, it was only once Stevie made that mistake that he made the move.
Well, speaking of mistakes, something has happened to our man Gaspers in his race to catch Arabian and trying to make something happen with him. Oh no, Gaspers has contact on the front straight with car number 16 of O-Ring. I can't imagine what happened there.
Yeah, that was weird. He hasn't really lost Arabian. He's right there, kind of a second back or so, which is where he has been. As O-Ring goes for a spin, that's a dangerous spot to be spun around. Oh no!
Oh, that was O-Ring pulling onto the track in the Andretti hairpin and getting T-boned by Stevie Ray's car. He also held up the car behind. I think that was Race. Here's the replay. So Yangshi Lin manages to get by. Ray does not.
Yeah, that was entirely on Ethan Oring. I don't know why he didn't just hold the brakes and sit there. I mean, he could argue he was trying to get out of the way, but
He didn't.
He didn't seem like he was paying attention. Yeah, well, for sure he didn't. If it was a misjudgment, it was a pretty large misjudgment there from Oring. It just kind of seemed like he wasn't really thinking.
Well, we've all had those moments. I know I certainly have. As we ride here, taking a look at Nichols, whom we had the chance to interview last week. Nice guy. Glad to see him having some success here. Struggled a little bit last week.
Yeah, he has pretty much been the class of the field for the TCR card. I know I saw him mention he had a new paint on this week, and it looks pretty spiffy.
Yeah.
Leading by some 15 seconds ahead of Andrew Benna. I think he was also helping with some... commentator's curse. Murphy Nichols goes for a spin there. I think he was helping with setups for some of these drivers. I saw some talking before the race. He's got a big enough lead here that that's not going to cost him much at all. It looks like his lead effectively is cut a little more than halved. Oh, but there's more contact as
Now
Oring
he gets into Oring. Oh.
Yeah, kind of continuing around with a damaged car, and Oring went for a spin there.
Yeah. Well, Nichols' lead.
It's gone back up. Did something happen to... Yeah, something must have happened to Andrew Benna there, because, or is it just showing not quite correctly on the timing tower? Can we jump to that lead TCR battle? Because I think there's a possibility they're kind of right there together. There's Andrew Benna. Yeah, there it is. So he is about 5 seconds behind Murphy Nichols.
Yeah. There we go.
Between the couple of incidents he had, he closed 11 seconds or so on that previous lap. Don't know if Nichols is carrying damage from the contact with the Spec Racer Ford, but he is... We'll have to watch the lap times.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks all right. We'll have to watch the lap times as they carry on here.
Well, speaking of lap times, here is Gasper's getting himself a gigantic tow from Arabian. So here we go. The replay of these two cars is setting up down into Andretti hairpin, and Gasper's goes very wide. They manage to stay out of one another, and they do, at least so far. Gasper's does not manage to get the pass. He tucks right in back under Arabian's car. He'll have to try again at some other point on track. Interesting strategy there. Interesting defense and interesting attack.
Yeah, I think Gasper's is getting, a little bit more, I don't want to say desperate. It certainly seems like he knows what he's doing out there, but we are getting towards the end of this race with just under 3 minutes left. He goes wide there. That's going to cost him, and he tried to stay in it, and that ended up costing him even more time as the TCR car goes through. That'll drop him over a second behind Ferenz Arabian. That was maybe not the right call by Gaspers to try and punch it and stick with it. He's still within a second as Arabian had to let that TCR car through into the corkscrew. And that has actually helped Gaspers a lot, because he was in hot water after his off in the exit of turn number 5, but he's right back there with him.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the section of the track that we were talking about earlier, about how sort of confusing it can be. And here's Gasper's right underneath Arabian once more.
Yeah, he is right there with him. Arabian will be getting a tow off the TCR car ahead for a bit, but Gaspers is probably going to have a run into turn number 1. Does he look to the inside here? He does not. Not quite close enough to make it happen there, but he'll stick right there with him. These drivers are going to have at least one more lap beyond this one, I have to believe, unless they get lapped.
You're probably right.
Don't know how far up the road Murphy Nichols is, but I don't believe he's taken the white flag yet.
Well, a little tap there from Gaspers, it looked like.
He is right on the back of Ferenz Arabian. And just have to say, it's good that these two, after their incident in race number 1, can come right back and fight hard and fight clean in race number 2. And they're putting on an
over-under move here.
Absolutely phenomenal show. Oh, gosh. Gasper's left.
Pushing Arabian wide there through turn 6. Here we go. 2 wide onto the Rahal straight, setting up for the corkscrew. Hopefully we don't have an incident here. Oh, take it easy, boys. Nice. Arabian manages to come out in front.
My goodness. What an incredible battle these two are putting on. Gasper's left just enough room at the exit of turn number 6. They were... Oh, he gets loose. Tries to go back around the outside. What? Oh, my goodness.
Gasper's.
What a move.
He must have visited a witch doctor this morning. That is twice now we've seen him lose the car and somehow manage to turn it into a pass as we see these two cars going 2 wide, inches from one another. Gasper's takes a very wide line, Arabian covering off the inside of the turn, and geometry in this case is going to be on Arabian's side, and he does indeed manage to stay in front. What
and these guys are now on the last lap of the race, so Gaspers knows he's got to get that move done, and I think he knows he's not going to get a repeat of what he did in turn 11 last time. He's not going to be that lucky as we see Murphy Nichols cross the line, your runaway TCR leader. We jump right back to the Spec Racer Ford battle. Gaspers just popping the nose out into turn 5, letting Arabian know he's there, but costs him on exit as he runs just a little bit wide and loses a bit of time. They head through turn number 6 now with Arabian easily ahead. Gasper's running wide. He's going to lose just a bit, but he does have that toe that's going to help him in through the corkscrew.
Yeah, let's see. It seemed like Arabian had the measure of the corkscrew a little bit more than Gasper's, although Gasper's this time manages to turn it into a little bit of a run. It almost seemed like he's much faster through turn 9, but has to back out a little bit so that he doesn't get into the rear of Arabian's car. Has a look down the inside in 10. Let's see what this has caused him to do.
Oh,
and
Arabian was way wide.
Onto the dirt. Now they just have to navigate. They have to somehow get around O-Ring. O-Ring gets out of the way, doesn't hold them up. So now it's Gasper's leading Arabian, just managed to get in front on the final lap and is going to cross the finish line in first place. What a race for those two drivers. Unbelievable.
Wow, that was something else. What a race.
I mean, I don't know if, like I said, Gasper's went to a witch doctor. He sacrificed a chicken over a stump in the swamp somewhere. But boy, did he have, I mean, Gasper's had so many incidents in that race that should have been the end of his race. And a couple of times he managed to turn those into passes.
Yeah, just masterful car control by David Gaspers. And got to give props to Ferenz Arabian as well. The way he managed to keep that battle going. I mean, Gaspers was all over him hard on the pressure for a while. Yeah. And it really just in that last series of corners did he lose it.
Unbelievable racing. What a treat. Here are your race results. Murphy Nichols, your overall winner, your TCR winner, well done to him. Followed by Andrew Benna. Frank Alessi had a little bit of a troubled race. And Samuel Tully in P4 overall at 4th in TCR. Gaspers, your I don't want to say unlikely, but an unbelievable race for Gaspers to take the win in Spec Racer Ford over Ferenz Arabian after they had a great battle in the previous race in the Skip Barber cars. P3 goes to Yangshi Lin, so he managed to make that happen. P4, Stevie Ray from Antonio Race. And Joe Camilleri there is your TCR driver. He takes 10th overall, followed by Stephen Beardsley. Bryce Evans wins the MX-5 Cup car, because he was the only one. But good driving out there anyway, Bryce. Appreciated seeing you on track in your Tag Heuer livery. Followed by Sean Fose, Andre Jameson, Ethan O-Ring, and Greg Hubler. What a race it was. And it looks like we've got our race winner, Murphy Nichols, in the interview waiting area. There he is. Murphy Nichols, can you hear us?
Nope. Guess
Nope,
not.
we lost him.
See if
Man
we can
down.
pull him in. I think we had this issue with him.
There he is. Murphy. Nope, we lost him
He
again.
might be having some mic issues. Why don't we get David Gaspers in here in the meantime? Can you hear us, David?
Yeah.
David, what a race. I am absolutely speechless, if I may say. First of all, let me say congratulations to you on your Spec Racer 4 class win. But I am absolutely speechless I counted 2 times when you looked to me like you were crashing off track and managed to turn it into a pass. Talk us through that.
Yeah, I was really close to crashing a couple of times, especially a couple of laps before we end when I went wide in that, I have no idea what corner, the one before the uphill left-hander. And I was really close to crashing there. I just wasn't used to the car after driving with Skippy before. So that's why I made so many mistakes, I think.
Well, you managed to turn it into unbelievably managed to turn it into a win. Unfortunate that you had that incident in the first race, but you guys seem, you and Forens Arabian seem pretty evenly matched out there. Were you having a lot of fun?
Yeah, Forens and I often drive together. We are both racing the official Spec Racer series, so we know each other quite well.
Oh, good. Well, we were hoping that you guys are on good terms, after having a little bit of a coming together. We don't want drivers to be too annoyed with one another.
So, yeah, I don't think I left enough room there in the first race, and that combined with netcode didn't end well.
Yeah, well, these things do happen. Congratulations on your class win. What an unbelievable race and an unbelievable show you guys put on for us. Thank you so much. And anybody you want to send a shout out to?
Yeah, as always, thank you for the people broadcasting this, so you, and also the people organizing the races. So otherwise, there would be no races and nothing to drive. So that's the most important part.
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much again. Congratulations on your class win. That is David Gaspers, your Spec Racer Ford winner. Now, Tyler, I'm hearing from Murphy Nichols that he thinks he might have fixed his issue. If you want to give him a try.
Sure. Let's see. Murphy, are you with us now?
Yes. Am I good?
Yep. Yeah, we got you. Perfect. So your TCR and overall race winner, Murphy Nichols, kind of just seemed like a walk in the park for you.
Yeah, it was a good race overall. It was just I thought it would have been a little bit closer. I was hoping to see a little bit more TCR guys out there. I did have a little incident in the corkscrew where cut my lead from about 15 seconds to about 5, so that kind of spooked me a little bit.
Sorry, I was just going to say, you'll be pleased to know that we had the camera right on you for it, and we were singing your praises right up to it, so you can blame us for the commentator's curse there.
Oh, that's awesome. You guys are good. It was a fun run overall. I was glad to see a bunch of the guys in there, a bunch of the guys that I've raced with before. I don't know if you guys caught it, but at the end, Andrew and I were having a little bit of fun. Just kind of, I was trying to do some burnouts, and Andrew, I don't know what he was doing. He was just trying to mess with me.
We did see that towards the end of the race. So I thought I heard you at the start of the practice session saying that we're giving some setup tips to some of the other drivers. Were you working with some of the guys in the TCR car, kind of helping with setups?
Yeah, I was trying to do that because I was hoping that, obviously, I want to see every driver improve, no matter what track they're in or what car they're in. And especially considering that I race with the majority of these guys, especially guys like Andrew, Joe, Sammy, and some other and Frank. I just want to see them all get better. So I ran here in a bigger league where I actually finished 4th in TCR, but the setup I used tonight. And I mean, for me, it ran really well. So I was hoping that I could kind of give it to them to see if their lap times would improve, to try to make the TCR racing a little bit more close, and kind of what I wasn't hoping for, just kind of me just pulling away with like 5-10 second gaps.
Yeah, for sure. It's always nice to hear of drivers wanting to help out. I think that's kind of one of the benefits of sort of league racing and not the official series, is you get a lot of that, drivers helping others, wanting everybody to get quicker because it makes the racing better. So good to hear. Do you have anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Obviously, the big shout outs to my parents for once again being my biggest supporters. Big shout out to Smoketown for upgrading their logo, so I was able to feature them on a new car design tonight. So that was pretty cool. Big shout out to the guys in Brunswick High School, and big shout out to Andrew for I know he finished second today, but I was kind of hoping we would have finished a little bit closer, at least time wise. But with how much he and other guys in the WDCR, SCCA, and SDCA Foundations League have helped me, I just got to thank all of them for getting me where I am now, because I would not be where I am now without their help.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Your overall winner for race 2, Murphy Nichols.
That is a good-looking car. Oh, sorry, Murphy. I didn't mean to talk over you. Great looking livery on that car. Now, I believe we have one final interview. See if we can grab Friends Arabian. Friends, are you hearing us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic race out there. What a show you and Gaspers put on. Talk us through your mindset as the race unfolded.
I knew Gasper had issues with his car bottoming out, so my goal was to just drive my pace and try to keep the car on track without exaggerating the front tires. And it paid off until the end, where I made a mistake on the outside and went down to the sand, basically, to ruin my chance.
Yeah.
And it's a usual affair. We always race every week, so I was expecting him to catch up whatever gap I would make on him. My goal was just to keep it on track and not make any mistakes, which didn't pan out.
Well, these things do happen. It did appear to me, tell me what you think about this, but it did look to me as though you had a slightly smoother sort of a driving style than Gasper's. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'm usually the type that hits a specific lap time, even if it's not 10:10. I always aim for maybe 9/10, 8/10, and I try to keep the time, keep my front tires okay, and performing the whole race. I'm usually better at the end of the race than at the start. I usually lose a lot of spaces and spots, but it usually pans out and pays off my driving style, but long term.
Well, that must have been what was going through your mind. You guys were swapping places back and forth throughout the race, and I thought for a moment there that was sort of Yang Shi Lin and Stevie Ray and Race were going to catch up to you guys and sort of become part of the party, but then you were able to sort of scamper away.
There's some corners where I would challenge, not as much as Gasper challenging every single corner. I'm sure he has a lot of confidence in me not ruining our race. But in the end, we don't want to lose 2-3 seconds overall the lap and allow the other guys to catch up that easily. The first time they caught up, I stayed on the inside, I closed the door, and from that point on, we were able to create a gap. And well, yeah, the results are the results.
Yeah. Well, they are, as you say, but gosh, what a show. What a great race you guys put on for us. Thank you so much for that. And congratulations on your P2 finish. Anybody you want to say hello to before we let you go?
Yeah, I'll say hello to my girlfriend, Carolina. She always waits for me on the evenings like this. I'm supposed to have dinner at this time, but I'm very glad she's very happy of me performing and driving on the sim.
Yeah, well, that sounds fantastic. My wife is already asleep. Thank you so much.
I'm on the West Coast, so we're 3 hours.
Gotcha. Well, thanks so much. Congratulations on your performance. That is your P2 and Spec Racer Ford finisher, Foreign's Arabian. What a race this was, Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely. We got two pretty excellent races here today, kind of both prompted by Friends Arabian and David Gaspers going at it. Although there was some other great battles in race number 1 and in race number 2 as well. I think we really got some pretty good entertainment, as we have all 3 weeks of the Ray Esports Winter Series that we've been broadcasting.
You bet. Now, just before I let you go, I want to tell you guys about SDK Gaming. You can add a virtual live HUD to iRacing. This is exactly the timing information that Tyler and I are looking at right now. It'll show you timing towers, enhanced relative boxes, mini maps, fuel calculators, the whole 9 yards. Stream all that to Twitch. It looks fantastic. I mean, just unbelievable. Broadcast your league, your series. SDK Gaming syncs your commentary team's cameras, focus on the driving, and your overlay with your broadcaster. It's great stuff. It's what we use. We love it. Check it out. Give it a chance. Boy, what a night we have had tonight at Ray Esports Racing Winter Tour, the 3rd week, as Tyler just said, live on Apex Racing TV. I have been Jim Hodson. Joining me tonight has been the inimitable Tyler Newitt, and in production, Dennis Branch. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next time.